big wake-up call. That was the moment that started all of this. That was when I started questioning. I was 21 at that time, and I started questioning everything that I see. That was the moment where I became the enemy of the establishment, because I realized that this thing makes no sense. I was a graphic designer back then. I started analyzing, the planes frame by frame. I realized all of this is fake. And that was the moment when I started analyzing the NASA moon landing pictures, and I was like, hold on, all of this makes no sense. The funny that you mentioned NDE experiences, because I actually there's a YouTube channel of a guy. I think his name is Anthony Shan. I think he's a French guy, and he has a YouTube channel with reports of NDE experiences from people. There's like 100 videos in there, and I went through all of them. And it's very similar to what Raymond Moody did in his book. He basically analyzed all the reports of NDE experience according to, he just categorized them according to the elements that reappear in every story. It turns out there's like 11 elements, going to the light, going back to the retrospective view on everything and like that kind of stuff. But I watched all of those thinking about machine elf messages, and turns out that the NDE realm, the world they go to, and the psychedelic machine elf realm are exactly the same, and the messages that people get in them are exactly the same. And I treat it as another validation of my experiences being real, because there's no chance that this is in any way connected. It's just, again, the same thing, but in a different type of a story, but the same messages.
Yeah, if more people had gnosis or had a spiritual awakening, then I reckon they'd put less pressure on themselves to strive for more meaning in their lives, not just dedicate their lives to materialistic things or be impulsive or self-destructive in the ways that aren't beneficial to anyone. These experiences are positive for a lot of people, but one of the things I worried about the most was not for being ridiculed about it, but it was the fear of joining a cult or religion that would do harm, or being conned by people. Now that I knew there was something else out there, that it was a little bit of a difficult thing to process. But that's why I enjoy your videos, as you articulate things in a way that is not preachy or have any traces of spiritual egotism. And I think you've even mentioned in your previous videos that you used to be an atheist.
Yeah, I was actually. That's what I made the video about today. It's me being an atheist, and then realizing that there is, there side of life. But I explained that video why I was an atheist, and I bashed Christianity hard in that video. Just that was the reason why I was an atheist. But yeah, it is important to understand that there is a divine side to this life. There's no just it's not about going to work and watching TV and then dying after 8 years of that. There's more to it, and that's what I want people to realize. I'm quite grounded when it comes to everything, because I have one thing that I gained from all of this is how the awareness of how little I know about everything, and also the fact that everything is a lie. That also makes me realize that there's so many wobbly and unstable elements of all of this, that trying to make any sort of you cannot make anything out of it that makes sense. You cannot create a theory that will be like, oh, that's definitely the truth. The biggest example for me is now flat Earth. When you try to figure out what type of Earth do we live on, and you're like, okay, so it's not a globe. It's difficult to say if it's really flat. So what is it? And the only conclusion you can come to is just like a petri dish, and we're in a lab, somebody's lab, where we're mice. And then you watch Truman Show, you realize that that's what it is, pretty much, but on a bigger scale.
Yeah, I mean, with the internet, we're at this boiling point of people arguing over consensus reality. We've never had this like 15 years ago. More and more weird and fringe ideas of reality are becoming more mainstream. And, that's why I don't mock the flat earthers myself, because I don't believe it personally. I don't mock them just to feel like I've got some intellectual superiority, but I can definitely empathize with them, as they've got something in their subconscious perhaps that is telling them that none of this is real, this maya we're in, and they've chosen the flat earth route in terms of trying to prove that something isn't quite right.
The scary thing really is not the fact that the earth could be flat. That's not a big deal. The real problem is the lack of proof for the globe. That's the biggest issue. That's something, if I ask you now to go on Google and find me proof, or just go anywhere outside your house and find me a physical, observable proof that the Earth is round, there's nothing. So that's the problem. Now, the other problem is the amount of energy and money that is pumped into to create this information. And I'm not sure if you know about this, but Flat Earth Society is that's an operation on a higher level where they created, again, plant opposition. It's a fake organization that pretends to talk about flat Earth. Its only purpose is to ridicule the idea, pretending to be a real society. The same with Netflix movies. I'm not sure if you've seen Behind the Curve with Mark Sargent, who is, again, a part of the plant opposition. It's once you start seeing this, you're like, okay, it's, again, the same story. Someone's trying to ridicule it. Someone's trying to make fun of it or discredit it. So if it's so ridiculous, why would people start doing this? Well, what is the reason that they put so much energy into making sure that it's the same as UFO 50 years ago. It's exactly the same book. They're using the same model of discrediting the whole thing, but creating like a notion that all of this is for tinfoil hats and crazy people. Why would they do this if it's just if it's just a theory by some crazy people? Why do they care about it so much?
I don't know if they know it's because they know that there is a thirst for conspiracy theories. The internet is such a treasure chest for new content for producers or writers these days, because all they need to do is latch onto a particular movement or theory, and voila, they've got another show to produce or a documentary on. So they can monetize these ideas while also discrediting them at the same time. I mean, you mentioned the Mandela effect earlier, and that's an example of that. I mean, I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater when it comes to science, as I treat science as a tool and not a belief system. I mean, I still have an interest in working out what's subjective and objective, and science is still the only way of doing that. I mean, what sold it for me for disproving flat Earth is the Carl Sagan video where he shows how light bends, or you're just using a piece of cardboard. But what I've learned so far on this journey of spiritual enlightenment, I guess, is that reality and sanity is mainly subjective, that most of reality is an agreed upon construct. Yeah, there's an author I really like called Robert Anton Wilson, who was this sort of underground counterculture guy who may have helped create or put the idea of the Illuminati into the zeitgeist. And he coined the term reality tunnel for the idea that reality is subjective and that belief systems have a way of being confirmed or reinforced. And he coined the term maybe logic, where he wanted people to be more agnostic, not just on spiritual matters, but on everything. Because the moment you put yourself in one box, the more you've limited your own intelligence. And he's got a couple of great books out there that delve into this topic, like Cosmic Trigger and Prometheus Rising, are really worth checking out. But I mean, these are not new ideas. Crowley had similar ideas about expanding your consciousness. He used to say, pick a day where you're left wing, pick a day when you're right wing. And that will ultimately change your perspective, and ultimately your world will be a bit more expanded. Your knowledge will be expanded if you do that. But yeah, to bring it back to flat Earth, I couldn't really give a shit if it's flat around. It's not going anywhere. I'm still trapped in the fucking thing.
It is important, and for me, it is important for one reason. And if that thing is questionable, if that's something you can question, and if it turns out to be a lie, what else is a lie?
Yeah, I get them sentiments, but ultimately, on either side of the flat earther argument, it's going to be like a dog chasing its own tail. It just seems like a lot of effort. Yeah, but the important thing is that people do keep questioning everything.
Well, I was shown that a part of your job here, the purpose of you being here, is basically discovering the truth. It's gaining the skills to connect the dots. And if that's the case, then I'm becoming a real artist in this, because it's really something that has been fascinating to me my whole life, just questioning everything and then trying to figure out what is real and what is not, what the truth is. And I've been doing this for most of my life. And you start seeing patterns. You start learning that everything in this reality, and again, it could be an effect of a glitch in the simulation, or maybe that's how the simulation is designed. is just that you start seeing even lies and misconceptions and misinformation is working in the same way. So once you learn about this pattern, once you see how misinformation works, you will see it everywhere. You'll start seeing immediately when someone's putting a lot of energy into discrediting it. Like you said, why would people care about the earth being flat or round? But that's what you see. You go online, you realize that there are giant battles in comment sections. People are starting to argue. But then you look into the users who do that, and each and one of them is created a few months ago, has only one follower, and they all look like it's two troll farms are trying to fight each other. And then you realize that, hold on, this is probably fake. All of this is just artificially created to create a notion of a discussion or something like that. So there must be some ulterior motive against something that we are not seeing.
Yeah, the thing that worries me is that those who are going against the grain of what's real or not real in terms of, conspiracy theories or ideas, like Alex Jones and David Icke, are now getting deplatformed. And it does raise some serious questions about freedom of speech. Even if you don't agree with what they're proposing, I don't think it's right to deplatform people. I mean, I don't know if you followed the London Real drama.
What, is Brian now being deplatformed too?
I mean, I don't think he got deplatformed or will be deplatformed, but I think he's lawyered up. But to be honest, I don't really know the whole saga, but that's only putting more fuel onto the fire if you are a conspiracy theorist, is don't try and silence your enemies in a way that infringes on their freedom of speech.
Well, the way I see it is because I've been following Alex Jones for almost 20 years, for as long as he's been active, and I'm always trying to get someone to explain to me why is he still alive? Because the people who really are a threat, they're being killed immediately, and you will see this with people who try to expose pedophilia. There's nobody who can say anything. Out of 11 cops who saw the Anthony Weiner laptop, 9 of them are dead. It's immediate. Like, you do anything, I think Isaac, whatever his name is, Isaac Kappe, I don't remember his last name, the guy who exposed Hollywood as a bunch of pedophiles, he was killed within like 48 hours. He streamed it on Facebook or whatever, and he was dead right after.
Do you think that actor Isaac Kappe was killed then?
There were 2 people who were trying to stop him to throw himself off the bridge. I mean, come on, what kind of a story is that? And it's the same story with Avicii, with Anthony Bourdain. Everybody who gets close to exposing the truth about pedophilia, they immediately get killed. They disappear. So I'm always asking, why is Alex Jones allowed to live? Why is David Icke come out? So something's not right. They're being deplatformed. There's more chaos around this. They get more notoriety. They move to BitChute. Nothing really changed. Like David Icke has his website, and InfoWars and Prison Planet has existed for 20 years. I have it on my phone, so I don't need them on being on YouTube, but I can still have access to them, so it doesn't change anything.
Yeah.
So it's difficult for me to buy it.
I think with Alex Jones and David Icke, they may have just slipped through the cracks, basically, because they were seen as kooks from the start of their careers when they started coming out with all this stuff. And I reckon they were seen as people not to worry about. No one suspected they would get as big as they did. And even now, if they were to actually die of natural causes, no one would believe it. There would be an absolute shitstorm on the internet. It'd be a risky move taking them out. In the movie Waking Life, Alex Jones actually makes a cameo where he's just driving around with a megaphone attached to his car, just ranting and raving about the government. And he looks like a paranoid madman. But now he's a multimillionaire, has his own mini media empire. So with Icke and Jones, if you look at the trajectory of both their careers, it's amazing to see what they've achieved. And, just like with Gnostic themes in films, there is something about what is being said that resonates with people. And, they've played a part in helping people wake up, regardless if people agree with their methods or not. So if there is an Illuminati, they have blind spots for sure, and they can't get to everybody. And I think people would slip through the cracks. But to stay on the topic of Alex Jones, what made him famous, or what gave him some sort of credibility, was the leaked Bohemian Grove footage. I was telling my girlfriend about this the other day, and she probably thought I was making it up, but basically the world's elite go into the woods dressed up as druids, holding flame torches and do rituals that involve worshipping